Hello YouTube, it's BirdOPrey5 and I'm back for my first reaction / review of Star Trek Discovery Season 2 Episode 9 Project Daedalus. And this is coming off of last week's brand new high point for Star Trek Discovery, where we finally met Spock, and it was a decent integration of previous lore and footage from the cage. We met the Telosians, and I was so afraid that this episode was going to fall apart, because previously, when we had a decent Discovery episode, which wasn't often, the next episode was awful. I'm happy to report that this episode didn't suck. Okay, it's not as good. It's not nearly as good as last week's, but it wasn't nearly as bad as some of the worst episodes, and some of the worst episodes we've seen this season were truly like negative ratings. I honestly am not 100% sure where I'd rate this. The pacing was much slower, it felt to me, than the last episode or the episode before it. I mean, a lot of things were said when I think about it, but the first gut reaction when I was done watching it was like, is that it? Is that all that's going to happen this episode? And things do happen, and we're gonna get into it. But I'd say I'd put this at a 5. I'd guess a 5 out of 10. For a Discovery, that's pretty damn good. And again, the Discovery scale is already different than like a Deep Space Nine scale, which would trounce even. The only Deep Space Nine episode that I might not want to watch ahead of any Discovery episode would be Move Along Home. But any of the other episodes through 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine, I would say, are better than all but perhaps last week's episode of Discovery. Any other episode of given the choice between whatever the lamest Deep Space Nine episode you could think of and the best Discovery episode, I choose Deep Space Nine every time. So with that out of the way, this episode wasn't awful. Now, they double, triple, quadruple, even quintuple, and I don't know how to say anything beyond that without sounding perverted, down on canon errors, or just not even errors, just something worse than an error, like they're stabbing and they're twisting it in our chests of canon. Horrible mistakes in canon, but they want to double down on it, triple down on it. They want to make them even worse, and they continue to do so. So you have to ignore that fact. Okay, you've got to get past that. If you're still watching Discovery, or even Discovery reviews for that reason, I'm assuming you've found some way to make peace with your God on why this is happening, and we'll accept it and we'll move on. Things like hologram technology, AI technology, and I'll get into the specifics, but all these types of things, just general technology, I'll get into it as we go along. Anyway, like in a previous review, the background is going to start showing still images from this episode. They're not going to line up with what I'm talking about. They're just going to go through the episode. So, this episode started with a previously on, like we'd seen most other episodes, which, to be honest, was kind of disappointing. Because, I mean, last episode we had a really cool previously on where they were talking, where they had the footage from the cage. And the episode before that, they did the previously on as a personal log of Michael Burnham, which, okay, it wasn't the greatest because it was Michael Burnham, but at least it was interesting. So, you know, it was different. I was hoping they were going to continue on with that, but no, we're back to the usual previously on. Okay, it's not the end of the world. They reminded us of the shuttle the shuttle attack, where the shuttle was attacked by the stuff from the future, and then they ended it on Spock telling everybody that the Red Angel showed him the vision of the future, and that future is all sentient life in the galaxy is killed, is destroyed. So this episode, it doesn't pay to go in order, because it'll just be all over the place. So let me just get the biggest plots out of the way first. The main plot of this episode, or the main purpose of this episode, is we finally get the background on Robot Chick. And Robot Chick apparently being Commander Airiam. That's how I heard it, Airiam. We finally find out what she really is. Was she a robot? Was she a cyborg? It turns out she was born a human, a human woman. She lived a good part of her life. She had been married, it seemed. And we see this as she is seeing a video of her and her husband walking on a beach somewhere. And apparently some type of accident happened that she was badly injured. And I don't know. They just decided to turn her into a cyborg of some type. I guess they figured this at the time, this was acceptable thing to do, was to transform her from a human being into a total cyborg. And we find out that she's not like a super advanced cyborg as Data or something, because well, not that Data's a cyborg, Data's an android, but she's not as advanced as we might have thought. Like, she doesn't have unlimited memory capacity, which is strange since the Discovery could hold 100,000 years worth of data in their computers, apparently without issue, that they transferred from that sphere that died. But she has limited memory. So once a week, and Tilly comes in, interrupts her doing this. Once a week, she has to choose what memories to keep and what memories to get rid of. So it's a pretty decent scene. We see her in like an alcove, like a Borg alcove, hint, hint. And she's facing inward, though, and she's replaying memories, and absurd as it is, because if this is what she really did, it would take her as much time to do this as it took for the memories to show up in real time. But she decides what memories she wants to keep and what memories she wants to archive, I guess, off to Discovery. But they're not in her brain if she archives them. And I guess what ones to just delete. And you see, she keeps the memory of her and her husband walking on the beach, or her boyfriend, whoever it was. And she keeps memories of her and Tilly and the girls hanging out in the mess hall. And then she gets rid of, memories that just probably don't mean anything and, nobody would care about. So we find out she's this. And we knew from previous episode that this, not the sphere, the alien tech from the future that destroyed the shuttlecraft somehow sent a virus over to Discovery that then somehow infected her, because we saw her eyes start flashing red, And throughout this episode, she is being helpful, but it's clear that she thinks she knows something is wrong, and she doesn't bring it up right away. In fact, she doesn't bring it up at all until the very end. But at one point, she's clearly concerned that she's doing something she doesn't want to be doing, or that she's missing time. And at one point, she asks Tilly to just, please, Tilly, stay with me. Do not leave my side until I'm done with this task. And Tilly agrees, even though it's kind of a weird request. And of course, the red stuff takes over and starts controlling her. And she tells Tilly, you know what, Tilly, it's okay for you to leave. And Tilly's like, but you said to stay. She's like, well, now I'm telling you to leave. And of course, Tilly leaves. So what? Of course she leaves. Which I guess I would too if somebody asked me to stay and then they tell me to leave without telling me the fact that, hey, I feel I might be being compromised, and that if I do tell you to leave without giving you, I don't know, a password or something, it's not really me. I might take that type of precaution, but reasons. So Tilly leaves, and of course she starts doing all stuff she's not supposed to. Now, also in this episode, the woman that came over from Enterprise with the face equipment so she could breathe, the Bazaar race, Brazer, whatever she was, Bazaar, I think it's Bazaar. A race that we saw in the Next Generation that shouldn't even be in the Federation because they were pre-warp, even in TNG times, but whatever. Robot chick asks her, oh, by the way, do those things in front of your face, keep you alive? Is that how you breathe? And she's like, asked, well, that's a weird question. Why do you ask? And robot chick is like, oh, just curious. Of course, she's under control of the sphere virus at this point. So she's just trying to figure out how to kill everybody. And from even before that, this particular bizarre chick, and woman. I forget her name because it's Discovery. I don't know her name, but she has her eye on Robot Chick. She has suspicions on Airiam. She doesn't tell anybody either. But you could tell she's suspicious. So, and there's going to be a fun thing, but okay. I don't know how to put this without ruining some of the other. Let's hold there. So we know we're going to learn a lot about Airiam. Now at the end of the last episode, Spock says, well, what I learned from my time as a fugitive, we have only one course of action. What's that? Everybody asks him. He says, run. So of course we assume Discovery is running. At least that was the feeling we got at the end of last episode. I guess that sounded better than it was, because all they did was run right into Vice Admiral Cornwell, and that was the woman Lorca banged back in season 1. I guess she has a soft spot for Discovery, and even though that they are all fugitives and she shouldn't be even on the ship or talking to them, she found a way. She found a way to get to Discovery without being tracked, and she boards Discovery, and she brings with her perhaps a 100% accurate, her words, 100% accurate lie detector test that she's giving Spock. And, for reasons, this lie detector has orbs that come out and spin around your head because, people like spinning orbs, I guess. And she asks Spock a whole bunch of questions about, leaving. Did he escape? And Spock 100% nails every question, corrects her multiple times. She's like, why did you escape the thing? He's like, I didn't escape. I checked myself in. I did not need permission to leave. Or why did you leave the starbase without permission? He's like, I needed no permission. I checked myself in, therefore I needed no permission to leave. And she's like, well, why did you kill those people? He's like, I didn't kill anybody. And she's like, well, did you kill them in self-defense? And he's like, I think I was pretty clear. I said I didn't kill anyone. And every time she's checking the machine, and of course he's being 100% truthful. So at the end of the and Burnham comes in like halfway and is like, I trust him. And like, Burnham, you idiot, nobody cares what you think in this regard. He's your brother. They expect you were going to stick up for him. So you adding your voice that, oh, I trust him, means absolutely nothing to anybody. But, and then she tells the same to Captain Pike and the Admiral, and they're both like, who cares what you want to, who cares what you think? This is beyond you. And so then the Admiral comes to the bridge and says, yes, I see Spock is being truthful. 100% truthful on this 100% accurate lie detector test. She's like, however, this is also 100% authentic. And she proceeds to play a video of Spock in his confinement cell on the starbase that we had seen, and the 3 doctors come in as we had seen before, but instead of Spock just disabling them to leave, which already seemed kind of violent, in this version Spock grabs a phaser from somewhere and just shoots them all dead, even though they were already knocked out. Illogical. And then he leaves. So she's like, they're like, obviously this video is faked, says Burnham, which, true enough. I mean, even today we could fake that video if we needed to. But Admiral Cornwell, Vice Admiral Cornwell, by the way, not full there, her. Vice Admiral Cornwell says she checked the logs or whatever, that it is 100% authentic and that it is legit. So she doesn't know how both things can be true. So she orders Discovery. She channels Sarek from 2 or 3 episodes ago, 2 episodes ago, and says, I know, let's go to Section 31, right? Because clearly that's the best thing we need to do. Actually, she wants Discovery to go to Section 31 because apparently Control, which is the system that admirals and all the top brass at Starfleet use, which is their master computer for tactics, strategies, and threat assessment, at some point stopped taking her. She couldn't input. She couldn't make requests of the computer anymore, and she feels she's been locked out of the control system. And I guess they are so dependent on computers that she can't do anything without control, apparently. So it's the most important thing to her right now is that she's got to go and get access back. And they're like, why would you lose access? And she's like, well, Admiral Picard, which when they said it, I would have sworn they said Picard, but they said Picard, who is the Vulcan admiral that was in charge of Section 31 that we saw in the previous episodes. It turns out we find out from Cornwell, that Admiral Picard, the Vulcan, is a logic extremist. A logic extremist. So logic extremists aren't just some small, terrorist group on Vulcan. They must be like a legit political party that logic extremists even serve in Starfleet, which makes even less sense than the term logic extremist to begin with, because their whole thing was to keep Vulcans separate. So why the hell is there a logic extremist serving in Starfleet, and how the hell did she become an admiral? But fine. Cornwell tells that she's a logic extremist, and that she probably shut out her access, and that they have to take Discovery to the Section 31 base to arrest her, and then give her access back to the computer system. And Pike apparently sees this as a good plan. Now, at the same time she's saying this, Saru finally realizes what data. Apparently he'd been working on this project all along. He finally finds out that where the data that was sent during that was going on, that they blamed it on Ash. They finally found out where he sent the data to, and they said he, as in that the fact that he had done it. Of course, they didn't know yet. And it was some coordinates, and he says, but it's weird because there's nothing there. He says there's nothing on record as being there. And of course, Admiral Cornwell was in the room, and she's like, oh, but there is something there. That's Section 31 headquarters. Great coincidence that they just happened to figure out where it went, and it was Section 31 headquarters. So now, of course, it looks even more likely that Tyler did it, even though we all know he didn't. So, Pike says, okay, whatever you people at the front who control the ship, whatever your names are, set course for Section 31. So they're flying along, tracking through the galaxy to Section 31 Starbase, and the Admiral brings up the schematics, and they're like, wait, are those mines? Like mines around there? And she's like, yeah, they're mines. And I think Pike or somebody said, but the Federation isn't allowed to use mines. She's like, well, a lot's changed since the war. Now we can. So she doesn't tell him the best part about the mines until they get there. But we also get a scene about talking more about Commander Airiam, and talking about how her cybernetics allow this, and we get the reason, and I'll be honest, I forgot already what the exact reason was, but it was some type of accident, and the only way to save her was to turn her into a cyborg, apparently. And the lady who has the big metal bulge on her head now, who got that after the Shinzo exploded, they both said yay for cybernetics. So I guess that metal thing on her head is also something cybernetic. So I guess in this reality, cybernetics are already being used to keep humans alive, that we never seen used to any degree in previous treks before. But now you get injured, you almost die, and we can bring you back like RoboCop or something. We'll give you a cybernetic body even if there's not much left of you, or whatever. So yeah, cybernetics far more advanced than they should be. So we're going to get back to the main plot, even though there's a lot of Spock smacking down Burnham verbally, not physically, but verbally throughout this episode, which was always good to see. She get a good smackdown. At one point, they play 3D chess, and I hesitated because I was like, okay, there's no way this game is gonna be finished, because they will not allow Michael Burnham to lose to Spock, but I don't think they could even allow Spock to lose without alienating a big segment. I say relatively big, because I don't think there's all that much of a fan base for Discovery, despite what certain YouTubers are claiming. I really don't think there is. I think most people watching Discovery are people watching it to complain about it online. I do. So I wouldn't call them fans. I mean, whatever you want to call them. But let's say in theory there were actual fans of Discovery who were original Star Trek fans. I think they wouldn't be able to handle Spock losing to Burnham at chess, so they didn't even let the game finish. Now they started making Spock make what Burnham were considered stupid moves, and they were having an argument during it, and like Burnham's like, why would you give up your rook? He's like, perhaps I just don't like my rook. And other things like that. And finally Spock gets angry and just smacks the game across over. And he wasn't angry because he was losing. He didn't give a shit about the game. He was angry because Burnham kept making everything about herself, like making things self-important and presuming to know things about Spock, even though they really haven't been part of each other's lives for a decade more or two, however long it's been. He's like, you know nothing about me. Why are you presuming? And he's like, and why do you even think I have a problem? He's like, it's illogical for you to even presume I have a problem. She's like, well, it's illogical for you to presume you don't. That was the stupidest thing she could have said. I mean, I say those things sometimes as a joke. Like my sister will say, no, you the, I'll say, no, you're the whatever. And yeah, it's funny, but it makes no logical sense. And Burnham and Spock in an argument over logic, it didn't make any sense. So yeah, he smacks over the chess set, and he's like, I've never felt better. I'm finally able to express my emotions, and I like it. And he walks out, and Burnham is literally on the verge of tears, crying, because Spock says something like, we're never gonna get along, or we're never gonna, you know, make up. And Burnham is brought to tears by this. And just as she's ready to break down crying, of course, Pike comes in and calls her to the bridge. So she has to stoically, she showed some emotion, stoically, for lack of a better word, man up and get herself to the bridge, not in tears. And she did. And she did. So they get to the starbase, and their minds everywhere. And now, sorry,
Just a good old boy.
it's nobody. And now Admiral, I can't keep forgetting her name, Cornwell. I keep wanting to say Cromwell. Admiral Cornwell says, oh, by the way, we need to go in with the shields down through all these mines. And Pike is like, what? She's like, yeah, the mines are attracted to shields. Okay. So she had a course she knew, I guess. She knew the secret way to go, left, right, up, down, up, back, BA, start, to get to the base through the mines. And so they put it in, and they go without the shields on. And I don't know what type of mines somebody said they were, but they're like buzz saws. If they hit your ship, they're supposed to like just cut pieces off. And of course they start going through the minefield, and the mines start going to the ship anyway. Oh yeah, Section 31, they hail them, but nobody answers, of course. So they start going through minefield, and of course the mines start coming after the ship. Now, while they're doing this, Robot Chick has just told Tilly to leave her alone. This is the part where she tells Tilly to leave, and Tilly wasn't supposed to leave, but she leaves. So now Robot Chick starts sending a bunch of data. You don't know what she's doing. But as they're going through the minefield, the mines start coming after the ship anyway, despite the Admiral's secret way of getting there. And so, of course, what do? They raise the shields, because what the hell else are you going to do? Now, these must be the worst mines ever produced, because I swear if this ship got hit once, it got hit 15 times by various mines. And the ship didn't seem to have taken any noticeable damage by the time it got through the minefield. And that included a buzzsaw. Now, what was cool was the shield effect. And I don't know, I don't recall this. I do not recall this on any previous episode of Discovery, but maybe I just missed it. Maybe I was in such rages of hate that I missed this interesting point. But whether it's a change in continuity of Discovery or what, the shields are not bubbles. The shields are not bubbles like they became in the Next Generation. The shields are once again right up against the hull of the ship like they were in the TOS movies. The shields, you don't actually hit the shield until you're right about on the hull. So like the mines are hitting the ship, and it looks like they're actually hitting the ship, but you see the shield, turn blue at the point of impact. And, quite a few impacts. So that was a pretty cool effect. And I liked, don't get me wrong, the bubble shield does seem more logical, but I really like the effect of the shield right up against the hull of the ship. And by the way, that scene with the spore drive things, my mom kept thinking was a laundromat. I thought that was funny. And it is. It does look like a laundromat. That one right there. It does. Looks like washers or dryers right above each other. Spot on, Mom. Spot on. And of course, Stamets is the one doing the laundry. So yeah, all these mines are attacking the ship, and they get through it. And once they get through it, finally, Section 31 is hailing the Discovery, and for reasons unknown, this time they're using the view screen instead of the hologram emitters. And on the view screen, of course, is the same three admirals as we've been seeing, with the Vulcan admiral, not Picard, but Patar in front, and the other two unnamed people off to her side. And of course, she's the only one speaking. And she tells them that Discovery has been deemed mutineers or something, treasoners, that everyone on Discovery is guilty of treason, and even though that the Vice Admiral Cornwell went on there in good intentions, the fact that she's been on this ship the whole time, she is also guilty, and that Starfleet Command was the one that gave them permission to shoot at the ship, to send the mines to Discovery. And Pike's like, bullshit. If Starfleet Command wants to destroy Discovery, they can tell it to my face. And they're like, Section 31's like, no, they're the ones who gave us the order, so we're not going to let you communicate. They were blocking communications with Starfleet Command. So everything was coming through them, and they said, okay, your ship's going to, like, listen, this is what's going to happen. Your ship's going to be boarded by a Section 31 crew, and you're all going to be taken into custody. And I think the admiral said, if you think you're coming over here to arrest us, maybe it was Pike. One of them said, if you think you're coming over here to arrest us, you got another thing coming. Of course, during this time, they're trying to scan the starbase, which turned out, it was made from a former penal colony. So of course they're made impenetrable to scans. You can't scan you cannot scan in the thing, because that what would be the point if you could. So they can't detect any life signs, but it's not weird that they can't. So Burnham and the Bazar woman from the Enterprise are going to go over to the science station with orders to reboot the control computer or something. Somehow give Admiral Cornwell access back to the control computer. And then, of course, robot chick Airiam, she says, I believe I could be of use if, and you know what? She had a legit point. She was useful for breaking through the decryption earlier on, and she's good at that stuff. But it was kind of weird for her to jump out and say, I believe I'd be useful. And the Enterprise bizarre chick, who had been suspicious of her anyway, tells Pike, I'll keep an eye on her. Not saying that I don't trust her, but like, I'll watch out for her, because clearly she's not someone who's been on many away missions, as they make clear. Like, one of the girls says, oh wow, an away mission, or isn't that special, something like that. So they go over to the space station, and of course there's no gravity, no air. They're in their suits and they have gravity boots. They're walking around, and they come to a point and they see people floating in the air. Burnham tells Airiam to see if she can get the gravity and the atmosphere restored. So she does. She goes over and she starts walking, and Burnham and the other woman are looking around, and Burnham's like, these people were killed on purpose. Doors were closed. She could tell they were struggling to get out or get in. She couldn't tell, but there was definitely a struggle. They were killed on purpose, and she couldn't tell who it was. But of course, once the gravity turns on and the bodies fall to the ground, lo and behold, who is it? Burnham turns it over, and it's the body of Admiral Patar, and she's been dead for weeks. And then now they don't have communication immediately with Pike, but both sides start to realize, holy crap, who have they been talking to? And Saru realizes it on Discovery after the conversation. I guess this was the whole reason it happened on the view screen. But after the conversation with the Admiral, and she said you guys are all going to be arrested, Saru says, holy crap, I should have noticed this earlier, but I'm an idiot. And I didn't say he was an idiot, but he's like, I can see more of the visuals in the spectrum than you people can. So I should have known, that when somebody lies or whatever, that their body heat changes. And of course, even though the view screen is only made to send visible light, for some reason the view screen also transmits UV and infrared as well, I suppose. So he noticed that the body temperature of the Admiral didn't change at all. during her speech, where she was saying they were all going to be arrested, and she was getting a little upset. So the body temperature should have changed, but it didn't. And he says, and furthermore, in the video of Spock killing everybody, his body temperature didn't change either. So clearly, the only explanation is they're holograms. Yes, they are perfect holograms. All previous holograms, besides that short time that we saw an actual holodeck on the Discovery back in season 1, but all the other holograms we've seen since have looked ghost-like, right? You could tell they were holograms. I guess they were meant to look like holograms. But no, they can do absolute perfect replica holograms as well, which I guess shouldn't have been a surprise, because again, we saw a full-out holodeck on Discovery that didn't look like holograms. They looked like real people at the time. And so I guess nobody ever thought to use a hologram to fake a security video before, that this was completely unheard of. And like, wow, okay, so now what's happening? Holy shit. Control, the threat assessment system of the entire Federation of Starfleet that all the other admirals used to use, and that had recently kind of changed. That previously they'd put in their data and they'd get a recommendation from Control, but they would always be the decision maker. And now more and more Control was making the decisions and they were just following the orders, which was really harkened back to a couple episodes ago where former Empress Georgiou was on the Section 31 ship, and she said, in my universe, we used to tell AIs what to do, but in this universe, and she didn't finish the sentence, but obviously she's like, in this universe, the AIs are telling us what to do. So she obviously knew something was up way back there. She didn't like being told what to do by a computer. So apparently Section 31 is being directed completely by computer. Of course, they might not know it. I don't know if Section 31 knows that they're actually computers telling them what to do or not. But yeah, so the computer system has become sentient, and apparently what it wanted, they realized, oh right, Saru also finds out that the data that was being sent to Section 31 was 25% of the data from the probe, from the 100,000-year-old sphere. So a ton of data was sent, and it was all sphere data. Now this computer wants the rest of the sphere data, and so that's why it's bringing Discovery there, and it's doing that. Now it's not exactly clear how the future tech that took control of the, although we assume it's all connected, but the future tech that took control of the shuttle and sent the virus to Airiam is kind of, I guess it didn't bring them there, but it was having Airiam send them the data from the probe. And I guess once they found out, now they needed Airiam to come to Section 31. This doesn't make a lot of sense as to how this would happen, but so she gets there, and of course the red blinking eyes take over, and instead of trying, she did, after getting the oxygen on and the gravity reinstated, she starts working again for the computer system, as she's trying to do something bad. And oh yeah, she starts going nuts. So she's trying to kill Michael and the other woman. The other woman had an eye on her. is like bullshit, and she's ready to take her out, and Airiam just rips the metal thing off her face, which it was a pretty crappy scene, but ouch. And all of a sudden she can't breathe, she's on the floor, she's hit, and she falls to the ground, and she's fighting to get to her mask that apparently will still work if she can reach it, but she's like too far away, and she passes out, and you figure she's a goner. And so then the fight just becomes between Michael and Robot Chick, and of course Robot Chick should be 100 times stronger than Michael, and for the most part you get the impression she is, although Burnham gets in a few punches and kicks that really just seem to do more damage than they should to a cyborg. At one point, Burnham does the jumping drop kick right out of Captain Kirk playbook. So I did laugh at that. She kicks her right in the chest, both legs kick. That was pretty funny. It didn't do shit to Robot Chick. She was still, and then she's holding up Burnham by the neck, and of course Discovery has cameras on all of them, so you see what Burnham sees, you see what Chick sees, and the third lady, she's already offline, so you figure she's dead. So you're like, holy shit, how's Michael going to get out of this? And I don't know, she all of a sudden she finds the strength to just like punch her in the both sides of the head, her metallic head it seems, with her fists, and it's enough for her to drop her. And Burnham, I don't know, Burnham locks her in a room, right? She locks her in a compartment, and then Discovery is like, hey, she's being controlled or whatever, that the AI, and basically she's trying to kill Burnham, and they decide they're going to get to her by Tilly, the power of Tilly and emotion, and Tilly starts sending her videos of her favorite memories. Oh right, Tilly realized that she archived all of her memories, even memories she would never archive, like her and Tilly and her boyfriend, which means that she must have needed all that memory free to bring over something, and they realized she was bringing over the rest of the probe data, and that's why they wanted her. So Tilly starts sending her playback messages somehow of her and her boyfriend and all these things that she wants to remember, and that they're going to get to her because they know she's in there somewhere. And of course it works partially. She gets her voice back and she can say, I can hear you, Tilly, yay. She's like, and she says, but I'm still, they have control over my motor reflexes. I can't stop what I'm doing. And she turns to Michael, who's like 6 inches away behind a glass door, and it's like, Michael, you have to open the airlock. The only way to stop me is to kill me, because if you don't stop me, I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. They're going to kill you, then they're going to kill everybody on Discovery, and basically they're going to take over the universe. So she's like, Michael, you got to open the airlock. And Burnham won't do it. Burnham is like, shit, no, I don't want to. I can't do it. No, don't ask me to. I've never been in a scene alone with you before in this series, but you're my best friend. I can't kill you. Oh, no, no, no. And Spock and Pike. Spock's like, Michael, just do it. The Admiral's like, Michael, Burnham, do it. Pike is like, do it, Michael. This is a direct order. Fucking open that airlock and let that bitch go out into space. She's not even really human anyway. No, Burnham can't do it, and Burnham doesn't do it, and the Robo Chick finishes what she's doing, and the AI comes alive and kills all of sentient life in the universe, and the series ends. Oh wait, that's what would have happened if Barzar chick didn't wake up, get her mask back on, and then have the balls to push the button while Michael was there crying and feeling bad about having to kill a crew member who was going to kill everybody, and who was begging her to please put her out of this misery and just blow the airlock. So the bizarre woman blows the airlock, and bam, she goes into space. And more or less, I think that's about where the episode ends. But the repercussions for this are what's incredible here. We get the feeling that the future tech... Oh, right. The episode actually ends where Robot Chick is in space, and she's still moving. And then we see in her eye, she's replaying the message of her memory with her husband on the beach. And then we see the system offline message, and she shuts off. So she's a computer, mostly. She doesn't die. She shuts off. So believe me, she is still alive in all what we would call it. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're setting up the Borg here. They're going to marry the sphere builders from Enterprise and the Borg, because I'm telling you, she was the precursor to the Borg. That's what they're doing. She was a cyber cyborg. She was a cyborg. We're going to find out the Borg were human after all, somehow. She's a cyborg. The tech from the future was probably the advanced Borg that had finally gotten rid of all their organic material and realized that just computers were the best way to go. The sphere builders were probably future Borg, and they were probably transforming the galaxy to make life easier for electronic beings, organic beings they didn't want in the galaxy anyway. And I think that's how this is all coming together. But yes, so they still have not broken in to reboot the control system. But for the time being, the Discovery seems to be fairly safe. The next episode they didn't show a hell of a lot. But the next episode is titled The Red Angel. So maybe we finally get to see the Red Angel. Maybe we finally get to talk to them. Maybe we finally get to know that it's Michael Burnham from the future to fix the mistakes she's made and, prevent this from all happening. But I don't know. There's definitely a strong feeling that the control computer from Section 31 and the future tech that attacked the shuttle are one and the same, and that Commander Airiam played a vital part in all this. Now they're debating whether they said that in this episode that once the computer gets the 100,000 years of data, it's only got 25% of it right now, that there'd be no problem it could not solve. So that's why it wants it. 100,000 years of data apparently is the magic number that makes you impossible to beat. And with only 25,000 years of data, I suppose it's still beatable. So yeah. That was this episode. It might have sounded like a lot, but when you watched it, especially compared to earlier episodes, it didn't seem like a whole hell of a lot went on. There really was no... I mean, the A and the B plots, they were all on Discovery. There wasn't... Maybe because we weren't taken to a Section 31 ship, or we weren't taken somewhere else. I mean, the only place we were taken was the space station, where Discovery was right next to it. So in that respect, there wasn't much. There was a little plot with Stamets and Spock and Burnham, and they were all doing work in the same area for some reason, and Stamets is like, can you guys talk more? And they're like, no, we're thinking. And then when they start having a fight, he's like, can you guys talk less? And then Burnham leaves, and then Spock is like, hey, by the way, I noticed you broke up with your boyfriend. Might I suggest that it's not because of you, it's because of him? And not those exact words, but that's... And Stamets is like, And then Stamets is like, I need your help, because Stamets shorts something out with electrical component, shorts out the entirety of, I don't know, engineering, or wherever the hell they are. And Spock is like, I'm doing something important. I'm trying to protect all sentient life in the galaxy. And Stamets is like, well, I'm doing something important too. I'm trying to fix the spore drive, without which we can't protect all sentient life in the galaxy. So it's really that my issue is more important than yours, don't you think? And Spock sees the logic in it. And of course, Spock comes over and can fix Stamets' issue very quickly, because Spock is Spock. And Stamets is happy, like, wow. And where the hell is Jet Reno in all this? They needed more engineers. They needed people who could do all these things. This is right up Jet Reno's alley, and Jet is gone. Jet has been gone. She's on the ship somewhere. She couldn't have left the ship. At no point did Discovery go someplace where Jet could have got off the ship. So I'm guessing she's on vacation? So yeah, a 5. Honestly, not the worst. Not the worst. Oh, and this is the scene from previous episode where Spock said goodbye. Goodbye, Spock. Oh, stupid. Anyway, that's my review / first reaction. As Discovery goes, decent. As Trek goes, blah. And I'm kind of curious to see where this plays out. Are they really... Is this really prelude to the Borg? I wouldn't have believed it before this episode that they were going to mess with the Borg. But now, after seeing this episode, I can't believe that they're not going to. So, with that, Qapla.